All right. Welcome to Ask the Experts. My name is Marty Wexler. Today I will be talking to you about a new feature we have starting with the Fuji release, and that feature is called extensions. So let me share my screen real quick. All right. Extensions are a new concept. The reason we've added extensions is because the probe methodology that we have today doesn't handle things like update events that may happen within your network. What I'm going to talk about today is our vCenter extension. Our vCenter extension was designed to listen to events that come from your vCenter. When the events are received, we process the event and we take the appropriate action based on what the event is. So let's get right into it. You reach your extensions through the through the extensions query. We're going to go down and talk about vCenter extensions. So you click on that, up they come, and I've already defined one. Let's go back to this real quick. If you wanted to define a new extension, you'd click on New, and you would be presented with a form that looks just like that. All right. So what do you do when you get this form? You fill it out, you give it a name. I'm talking to the ITOM55 vCenter, so I named it ITOM55 Events. My description, which is optional, it captures events from ITOM55. The extension will be pre-filled in for you that says vCenter extension, and the status is based upon any of the actions you take over here. I have two options for where I want to execute. I may execute on a specific mid server, or if you have a cluster defined, it may execute on that cluster. The mid server I've chosen is one of the mid servers that we have set up today for our demo. The vCenter that I'm interested in talking to is the vCenter at ITOM55. Now we have several vCenters. I could have chosen any of these, but for the demo today, we're going to use ITOM55. And then the list of events. List of events in Fuji right now is a comma-separated list of VMware events. Now, where does that list come from? Easiest way to get that list is to come over here to our wiki. And on our wiki, we have a description of exactly how you fill out the event collector extension. And if you scroll down, you're going to find a list of events that we support. So it's a comma-separated list of events that you fill in. And we handle powering on a virtual machine, powering off a virtual machine, pausing a virtual machine or suspending it, relocating a virtual machine. That's if the virtual machine is off or paused. You can relocate it to either new storage, a new host, or both, and then a VM migrated event. This is sometimes called vMotion, where you're going to want to hot migrate what you're doing over to another machine. Now with vMotion, you can either hot migrate the storage or the host of the VM, but you can't do both at the same time. All right, so let's go back over here. So you're going to enter these events. So what can you do once you've set this up? Well, you can start it. I've already started it. You can stop it. You can restart it. You can test it. So let's go ahead and test this right now. So what the test is going to do, it's going to talk to the mid server. It's going to take all of the parameters that you've set up, and it's going to validate that all of these parameters are valid. All right. So if you misspell VM powered on event or add an event that we don't support, when you test it, it'll come back and say, hey, I can't start because of, and it'll give you a very good description of what that problem is. All right, so it looks like all of our parameters are valid. One thing about testing, if you notice, I've already started the extension, as it says here. When I go ahead and test it, it does not stop the extension from running. It runs, it just validates that it's able to run. Okay? Update parameters, typically that is used to send the parameters you've defined for this extension up to the extension itself, and the extension may or may not decide in order to honor these parameters I need to restart. So for example, if I delete one of these events here, I can just say update parameters, and those parameters will be pushed without you having to change it, save it, start it, restart it, or whatever you want to do. It simply sends the new parameters and the extension decides if it needs to restart. All right, so let's see this in action. So here we have, let me refresh this real quick. All right, so here we have a virtual machine. Its name is CentOS 5 OpenSSH. It's one of our test VMs. And you can see it's running on the ESX server at .245. So I'm going to go ahead and take this VM that right now is running, and I'm going to suspend it and give that a second to run. And great, so that's been suspended. I'm going to come back here, and you can see the state is on, so I'm just going to refresh this page. And you're going to see that the state is now paused. Now, what happened was when vCenter finished suspending that VM, it sent an event that we picked up on the mid server. The mid server grabbed that event, immediately sent it over to the instance, and the instance updated the CMDB. So in the CMDB, all of your VMs are now up to date. Previous to the advent of extensions, what would happen is you typically set up your vCenter to be discovered maybe once a day, maybe once every other day. And at that time, when you do the discovery, we look at the state of all the VMs. And that VM will stay in that state until you run another discovery on your vCenter. That means that typically your VM state is out of date. You know, if you run it once a day, it means that, you know, at midnight, this is the snapshot of how everything was, but tomorrow morning at 6 a.m., looking at your CMDB won't really tell you the state of your virtual machines. So this went ahead and updated it immediately, so at any time you look at any of your virtual machines, you know that the state is correct and the information about it is correct. You look down here, it's running on the 245 ESX server. So I'm going to go back over here, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to migrate this thing. And I'm just going to change the host. And I'm going to shrink this a little bit. There we go. Okay, so it was on 245. I'm going to move it over to 204. Great. All right, so now it's migrating over to 204. And there we go, it's migrated. And we're on 245. I'm going to refresh this. And now we're on 204. So what happened again was we went ahead and migrated the virtual machine. One of the events we listened for was a migration event. The migration occurred. An event was sent over to the mid server, which immediately sent it over to the instance, which updated the CMDB. And as you can see, the CMDB now reflects the current state of your virtual machine. So this works only right now. This is only available for vCenter, not any of the other platforms. We will be expanding that in the future. And it's a simple, straightforward way to keep your CMDB up to date. One more thing I want to mention. We do have one other extension that's available today, and that's for trap collectors. I'm not going to demo that today, but I will show you that simply to do a extension for a trap collector, you're going to do the same sort of information filling out as you did for the vCenter extension. You are going to go ahead and provide the name, could be any name you want to give it, short description, a UDP port, which is where you want your traps to go to, and what you want, or which mid server you want to execute this extension on. Now, even though you have two options here, a cluster or a specific mid server, with traps, you're going to likely want to have a specific mid server. And this is because the device that's sending the traps probably has an IP address that it's using. And given an IP address, if you use a cluster and we migrate this extension for you because a mid server goes down, the traps won't make it to the new server anyhow because it has a new IP. The trap collector is used with our events product, and you can get more information by talking to your sales engineer about our events product.